Hey there, folks. This is Andre, the Game Idea Guy, and this is an interesting subject. One that a lot of people have gone back and forth on social media for a good amount of time. And it's something that crops up every now and again. It doesn't stay consistently because people's attention spans will draw them other places. But again, very recently, this has happened on both the video game media side as well as the game publisher side. And that is blaming gamers in general for their non-success. So, I mean, it's partially gamers' fault, obviously, because if they're not interacting with the content that is being created, whether that is articles or that is the video games themselves, that's partially the fault of gamers if they're not interested. But whose fault is it to know what the interest is of the gamers that you are trying to procure to your content? That would be the publishers or developers of the games, as well as the publishers or writers of the media. If you don't know what your audience wants, you can't blame them for not being interested in what you give them. That's pretty simple. That's not hard to understand. That's not hard to digest. That's not difficult to take in. So why is it that we have this large disconnect when it comes down to gaming media and certain game development studios and publishers? Quite simply, they're listening to the wrong people. That's the best way to put it. They're listening to the wrong people. Some of those people are embedded within their companies. Some of those people are embedded within the partners that they have. Some of those people are themselves. They're listening to the wrong people. They're listening to the loud minority. And when I say minority in this sense, I'm not talking about a racial group, but that should be understood anyway. But they're dealing with the loud minority of people who want things to reflect what they particularly want, not reflect what people are actually interested in. And I'm going to do another discussion separate on that particular thing because I do have some things I want to say about it, and I've done recording several times, but I haven't liked the direction I've gone because I think I've said some things I didn't mean to say, or accidentally implied some things I didn't mean to. So I'm going to redo that for like the 15th time. But for this discussion, if you don't know what your audience wants, how can you give them what they want? Either you have to be creative in a way that sparks someone's imagination to the point where they just undeniably are hooked into what you are trying to give them, or you just pay attention to what they actually seem to like and not what you think they should like. I mean, I'm a victim of that myself because most of the time I will make discussions or videos about things I am interested in. And yes, sometimes that works out that people will be interested in the same thing. Sometimes it doesn't. And I've been paying more attention to my analytics, and I'm starting to see that, yes, there are certain subjects I can talk about that will draw more people in. Usually the stuff that's more controversial. Sometimes it's not interesting enough to me to discuss. Or I missed the window of opportunity because I got other stuff going on. So at that point, it would be way late of a video trying to jump on it. But then there are things that I just come up with on the fly from me that I think would work really well. And people tend to like those videos. Some of them do pretty decently for the size of my channel. Heck, almost anything Sonic related does pretty well on my channel for some particular reason. I don't know why, but usually stuff that has Sonic in it draws at least a decent amount of interest, again, for my size of channel. And I know that. I know that because I've seen how things end up trending or working out for my channel. I still have videos that are like 7 or 8 years old that are still getting views specifically for the little thing that they are. So to me, looking at how games journalists and game publishers will say, oh, well, no, it's because of the gamers. They don't want to interact with anything that makes them think. That's not necessarily true. Maybe what they thought about is what you're trying to say and they didn't like the message. Maybe they thought about what you're trying to show them and they didn't like the image. It all comes down to you not knowing your audience well enough. You don't know your audience well enough to stimulate them in a way that they want. And the stimulation that you are providing has turned them away. That's pretty much how that's going. I can't be mad at people for not being interested in something I do. If they're not interested, they're not interested. I try to see if things work. If they don't work, they don't. But you don't get mad at the people who just aren't interested in what you're trying to peddle to them. You don't get to blame them for your lack of doing research into anything. Yeah, you got a few loudmouths like, yes, this will be great, this will be awesome, and we'll do all these other things, and then we'll show everybody this, and they'll fall in love with it. No, that's not how it works. That's your ideal version of the situation. That doesn't necessarily turn into reality. For that to become reality, you have to be extremely fortunate. Extremely fortunate. That's not going to work for everyone. Some people do the exact same thing for 20 years and don't get a hit. In that 21st year, someone finds their stuff and they fall in love with it. Sometimes that's how it is. But you're not going to be able to sit and blame the audience for not being interested. The audience knows what they want. You're not providing what they want. It's pretty simple. It's very, very simple. And it shouldn't be this big, long, blown out discussion. It shouldn't be this big argument. Honestly, it's easy to figure out. You're not giving your audience what they want. That's why I've personally just started trying to look at the things that I know that the people that follow me or watch my content are actually interested in. And I've been trying to curtail myself more that direction along the lines of doing things that I'm actually interested in. Not curtail myself along that direction and just completely forget who I am, completely forget my identity. No, that's not what I'm doing. But I'm trying to figure out something that works for the people that follow me that would be also interesting to people who don't normally follow me. That's what my whole thought process has been as of late. What do the people that follow me like? And what would be interesting among the things that they like that other people might like? Sometimes you get a hit, sometimes you get a miss. But if you're persistent enough and you keep grinding at it, you'll probably get there at some point. But you can't just try to force feed everyone the things that you think and expect them to just be like, oh, cool. Yes, I'm going to go ahead and do this. I'm going to just accept this. It takes a fair amount of trickery and manipulation to get something like that to work in the first place. And secondly, there's no guarantee it'll work, especially depending upon your status in the industry that you're in. Certain people are respected for their opinions because they've put in the time and effort for the audience that they are trying to work with. And some people are so interested in making their rage bait that they forget that eventually rage dies down. And that becomes a problem for them if they don't know how to pivot and try to figure out what their audience actually wants. You can't put yourself in the position of making things for other people if you're only making them for yourself. Granted, with my YouTube channel, I love making videos the way I genuinely make them. But I also know that sometimes you got to step outside the box a little bit, be a little bit different from what you normally are. Because that in and of itself can be interesting enough, just enough to make people say, oh, yo, hey, there's another facet to this person. I'm interested in that. Let's see where that goes. My content basically boils down to my opinions on things and what I think should be done with certain things. Or how certain things should work. It is really all my opinions, which are going to change over time. But at the same time, I don't treat my opinions as if they are the absolute most dedicated fact on the planet, which I have noticed when it comes down to a lot of articles is the case, or where you see different dialogue changes in localized games that don't reflect what the original was trying to convey. And it sounds more like something from someone here in the US that just wants to throw their opinion in on something that has nothing to do with their opinion. Those things can have negative consequences and backlashes. So, again, it's more about knowing the audience you have and knowing what they're interested in. Some things people are going to overlook because they'll think about there being nuance to a situation. But it gets to a point where you are blatantly pushing one message forward and trying to use that message as the end-all be-all of everything, that people tend to get a little bit, tired of it. It becomes a point of frustration. It's something that they've heard far too much, far too often. They've seen far too much of it. So then they become negative towards it. And that happens even if the message that you are trying to push forward is a good message. It doesn't necessarily matter the kind of message you're trying to push forward. It depends on how it's presented and how often people see it. That's a thing that I don't think a lot of people take into consideration when they are trying to perpetuate something. Again, too much of a good thing can become poisonous. So anyone that says there's no such thing as too much of a good thing, yes, there is. You can have too much of something that's good for you and it can poison you. How that poison works depends on what the thing is. But I don't want to die on this subject for too much longer. Again, I've said what I had to say about it and expressed my thoughts on it. I just think that people don't know their audiences. And they're getting upset that their audience isn't reciprocal to the things that they want to say. They're going to have to learn that not everything that you say, everyone's going to be interested in or want to hear. And that's just the truth of it, no matter what it is. So, with that said, if anyone would like to express their opinions or thoughts, please do. Otherwise, thank you guys very much for listening again. Keep your eyes and ears out for more stuff from me. And until the next time, enjoy your games. Peace out, everybody. And please subscribe.